All right. So what we're gonna do now, guys, is we're gonna look at this chapter again. We kind of went through it, ratio, proportion, and percentage, but we're gonna review it and we're gonna go through some questions and we're gonna look at how um, we can use some of the concepts in here to a more practical application. So some of the things we're gonna do which are more practical are we're gonna use proportions and currency cross rate tables to convert currencies. Okay. Um, this is something that you can easily do using the computers these days, but it's good to know how it's done. Okay. So it's a business case scenario for these application of these kinds of concepts. So next, use index numbers and consumer price index to compute purchasing power of the Canadian dollar. And this is how we're going to learn um, what purchasing power is, how it's defined, what the consumer price index is, and that kind of thing. All right, and then the next, use federal income tax brackets and tax rates to calculate federal income taxes. So this is something, again, it's a case, it's a use case for ratios, proportions, and percentages. And in general, guys, you'll see that, as it says right here in your book too, developing competence with ratios, proportions, and percentages is necessary because these are widely used in the business world. So this is something you're going to find recurring again and again in your experience in a job and during if you start your own business. Ratios, proportion, and percentages. Okay. And business information is often represented as a comparison of related values in the form of ratios or proportions. All right. So this is how business information is sometimes presented in the form of ratios and proportions. Ratios are also used in business to allocate expenses and funds. To allocate expenses and funds. Okay. So that's another use for ratios. To allocate expenses and funds. Okay. Next, discussion of ratio leads into the introduction to proportions, which involve the equality of two ratios. The equality of two ratios. So ratio and proportion are both related concept. Ratio and proportion are related concepts. Okay, they're related. They're related to each other. Ratios. Sorry about this terrible. There you go. Ratio and proportion related. And what is proportion? It's involved in equality of two ratios. We'll see that. Uh, the proportion model is very useful in setting up solutions to a problem involving foreign currency exchange rates and consumer price index. Okay, so these are the two use cases for proportions. Okay, foreign exchange rates, and consumer price index. Okay, and then these are the applied and explored in the rest of this chapter. Next, what does it say? Discounts, interest rates, growth in earnings, and wages all use percentages. Okay, so this is now the case used for percentages. Okay, so we got percentages, and their case uses multiple things. Discounts, you sometimes it's 10% off, 20% off. You go to a market and it says it has slogans like that. Or interest rates, you go to get a car or you get to a house loan or you're applying for like a business loan. All of them will have talk about interest rate, which uses percentages. Discounts use percentages. Growth in earnings are often expressed in form of percentages, as well as changes in income and wages are expressed in percentages. So it's important to have a good foundation in percentages. Okay. The percent of increase or decrease is often mentioned in annual reports and news articles. So that's another thing you'll see in financial reports. They'll say, okay, from last year there's been a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5% increase, and so that itself is a use case for percentages. So percentages also play a significant role in calculating the PST, HST, and GST. So these three things are also the percentages play an important role. Okay, so that's why it's very important that we learn about percentages. So what we're basically talking so far is that developing competence with ratios, proportions, and percentages is necessary because these are widely used in the business world. So it would be great for you to have a good solid foundation in that. Okay, consumers like businesses are particularly interested in lending and income tax rates. Okay, consumers like businesses are particularly interested in lending and income tax rates. Okay, so if you're a consumer and just like a business, you're interested in lending money and in income tax rates. Okay, so what is the amount at which people are lending money right now? You might be interested in that. You might need to get loan for school or for some other project, for maybe you're starting a new business or you have an idea. You're also interested in the rates for your income tax. Okay, because you have to pay your income tax. So you want to know what rate are you supposed to pay it at? Okay, so and businesses also have the same sort of interest in figuring out what these are. Next, calculation of federal and income and provincial income tax rates is explored in this chapter. So in this chapter, we're going to look at federal and provincial income tax rates and providing practice in dealing with percentages as well as updates about the Canadian tax law. So there's a two-pronged strategy here. You'll get practice. You'll get practice with percentages, and you'll learn a little bit or get updates about Canadian tax system. Okay, so these are the two reasons. All right, good. The exercise may even encourage you to do your own tax returns, which is good because you're not have to pay all this money every year to somebody to do it. Now that's not to say that you don't necessarily have to pay other people, but it would be interesting case if you knew how to do it yourself. Now, I don't know if we're going to go that far into this, but let's see what happens. The most important thing is that we are going to develop competence. We're going to develop competence with ratios, proportions, and percentages. Ratios, proportions, and percentages. So we're going to spend some time learning about this. So I welcome you to this new chapter, and I hope you're ready to learn some new concepts. And if you already know some of these concepts, hopefully you will get them refreshed and reviewed, and perhaps learn some further details about these concepts. All right. See you in the next video.